So most of us believe we are good drivers, and here in Utah, guess what? It might be true. A study ranks Salt Lake as having the third best drivers in any city in the country. So we brought in an expert to weigh in on this new breaking news data. Andy Farnsworth, traffic reporter for KSL Newsradio. He's been keeping us informed about what's happening on the Wasatch Front roadways for 25 years, so who better to ask about our local drivers? It's great to see you.
It's hard to believe it's been that long, honestly.
Is that weird?
It's gone through pretty quick, yeah.
When did you know in that 25-year span that traffic was going to be your thing?
Honestly, never. It just sort of snuck up on me. I wanted to do sports, and I ended up in traffic, and
it just happened.
I've sort of done it since
And
then.
now you probably can't go to a grocery store without people asking you questions about it.
No, but once they find out, here's the thing about traffic reporters. We're kind of anonymous. Like, we're there when you need us, but you don't really remember us after the fact.
Oh, come
and that's
on.
okay. That's okay. But once they do find out, then I always get a traffic question.
You get the 10 questions.
Yeah.
All right, this study, here's my question for you. This study from a company called Clever Move looked at statistics like numbers of uninsured drivers and which cities had fewest traffic-related deaths per capita. Good news for us, we're number 3. Are you surprised by where Salt Lake City fell on that?
Well, as far as the stats that went into it, I'm not that surprised, but if you've talked to any Utah driver, they all believe that Utah drivers are the worst, right? I mean, I'm sure you've heard this too, Brooke. I hear that a lot. Utah drivers are the worst.
We've got a reputation.
But I bet that's the same. Every state kind of feels that way. And so it really comes down to your experiences. I'm not surprised because I do think that Utah drivers are better than the in-state reputation we have among ourselves. I don't think we're as bad as some people think we are, but are we third in the country? I don't know. And I looked at the numbers. The biggest thing to me is that those numbers were up through 2020.
Okay, what's happened since 2020?
The pandemic.
Oh, well, yeah.
And that changed a lot of things. First of all, the number of 100-mile-an-hour citations just went off the charts after the pandemic started.
Post-pandemic?
Correct. Once people stopped commuting to work, once we broke the habit of everybody commuting the same days at the same time, and then there was remote work, and so then there was fewer people on the road. So for some, it was like, well, let's just gun it. We don't have, there's nobody in front of me, so why not? And so those, I mean, they went off the charts. Like Highway Patrol was tweeting, like, we did maybe 20 in the last 5 years, and we've done 100 in the first 3 months of this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's happening a lot. So that's contributing. We've actually had, over the last 2 years, the 2 of the highest traffic fatalities in our state's history were over the last 2 years. So it was great. We were doing right with the Road to Zero campaign. I was a part of that. And, you know, there's no acceptable number of traffic fatalities.
Right.
We think of it as an aggregate, but you need to think of it as an individual thing. Like, you know, is 5 okay? Well, you tell the 5 people who lost their lives.
Exactly. So since 2020, maybe things have changed.
Since 2020, I don't know if we'd rank as high. But again, this is all based on numbers. And, I think that we aren't as bad as sometimes we think we are.
What do you think makes a good driver? Good driver.
Personally, I think someone who's patient. And somebody who can put themselves in the other car's position.
That
like
compassion.
Thinking like, what am I looking like to the next person? Or, you know, not everybody can do this, but like maybe that person that cut you off, maybe they're racing to the hospital.
I think that all the time.
They're probably not, but maybe they are. What if they are?
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Would that change your opinion if you found out they were racing to the hospital?
Are you a good driver, Andy Farnsworth?
I'd like to think so. I've had very few crashes in the last while.
I think I'm a good driver. I'm willing to confess, though, a few weaknesses. I'm not good at right turns.
Right turns?
Well, like when I'm coming out of a parking lot, the curb's always just a little too close. I never cut it right. And
go a little further forward and then turn.
Well, I'm trying to think of the other person on the
truck.
I sometimes drive Mark's truck.
And that's part of it.
And it's the worst. I accidentally
clipped a pillar in our parking lot with my father-in-law's truck once.
I did too.
Well, this is not a 5 moment for that because it's terrible.
No, it's bad, but I'm just
expensive.
saying, I don't want to go down alone.
I thought I was going to throw up when I saw the big scratch that I ran down the whole side of the truck.
The other thing is I don't like to turn left into a parking stall. I've got limits. I know my boundaries. I'm not strong on, anyway, you just got to know yourself.
And that's an important thing too. Honestly, impatience and speed are the 2 biggest things in my experience of watching the different types of crashes. Another thing that's increased a whole bunch the last 2 years is wrong way drivers. Somehow we've seen a huge increase in that. I don't understand that. Other than maybe new interchanges are confusing people, but some of these are on interchanges where I hear about them and I go, how did they get in the wrong way then?
Yeah, not attentiveness to the signs. This is a very technical conversation. You took this deeper than we even thought.
Well, I talk traffic.
And we love you for it. Thank you, Andy Farnsworth. You can hear him, of course, as one of the traffic reporters each week morning on KSL Newsradio 1160. Great to have you on Studio 5, sir.
Thanks for having me.
If I see you in a truck, I'll stay in the other lane. You do the same for me.
Only if you're a pillar.